Welcome to VB Coding. Today we will be going over creating a service account and granting limited access. We will be talking about the two different kinds of authentication methods, such as Windows authentication or password. So what do I mean by service account? A service account is not associated with an individual person or employee, but rather it is a general account that can be used with automated processes or for reporting that can be used by multiple users. This can be useful where you do not want processes or reporting tied to an individual's account. If, for example, an employee were to leave the company and their account was closed, then any automated processes or reporting would fail. They would error out. So having a service account allows for that extra security. So just real quick for a prerequisite, when creating an account, make sure when you go to the properties of your server, again, right-click the server name, go to Properties. On the left-hand side, select Security, and make sure that the SQL Server and Windows authentication mode is selected. If you did do this step just now, there is a second step you have to do on your computer. Go to Services, scroll down to SQL Server, right-click in that row, and click Restart. Otherwise, if you only did that first step, then your login will fail. The new login will fail. So we will do a quick run through of all the steps. We will also be stepping through these later on. So for creating a new login, go to the security folder of your SQL Server, not the security folder under database. Go to Logins, right-click on Logins, select on New Login, give them a name, and select SQL Server Authentication and give it a password. For the example for today, I want to make a service account that is used for PowerBI reporting. And just in case if you're not familiar, PowerBI is a Microsoft product. It is like a more advanced version of Microsoft Excel where you can more easily share reporting and have more data sources linked into the report. So for my example, for my service account, I am going to give it a prefix of SVC to stand for service. And this helps it stand out from other users on the server. And then I give it a short description to help me understand what is this service account used for. So I give it the name PBI. So all in all, the full name will be SVC PBI. Moving down to server roles, I'm going to be granting it more access later on. So for now, I just left the public box checked, leaving everything else alone. Step 3, under user mapping, I want to grant it access only to one of our two databases. So I check the box for prod, and I leave the bottom section mostly blank, again leaving just the public checkbox checked. Step 4, for securables, select search and select our SQL Express that we are working on. At the bottom of the pop-up, scroll down to connect SQL and check the box in the grant column. Step 5, you shouldn't have to do anything here, but double check that the top portion for permission to connect to database engine has grant selected and login is enabled. You can double check right now to see, okay, what does this account see when you log in? So sign out of your account in Management Studio and now log in as a new user. Make sure the authentication method is SQL Server Authentication. Enter the username and password. Password is case sensitive. So off the bat, we confirmed that the service accounts can see both databases in the server, even though we only granted access to one. However, if the Surface account, or whoever signed in as a user as the Surface account, goes to expand the dev database, they get a pop-up message saying the database is not accessible. We can also go to the tables in the database that it does have access to and confirm that it does not have access to any of the tables that is in there. In this case, it cannot see anything. Unlike the dev database where you can see it's there but not accessible, here they can't even see the tables. Compared to on the right hand side, I have a screenshot from my VB account, which is a system admin. They can see both tables that we have in there currently. So now, logging back into Management Studio as my VB account, I'm going to go to the database that the Surface account has access to and type out grant select buckets to SVC PBI, execute. And now if I signed out and then signed back in as the Surface account, now we can confirm that the account can see the buckets table. We could also do a quick test, try to update the buckets table, or delete or insert, and you will see a message at the bottom of the screen saying permission was denied. So here are a few different ways that you can grant access and what you can grant. You can grant alter, select, insert, update, delete. You can grant it on specific tables. You can grant it on schemas, or if you want to grant it for all of the objects, then you can just leave that off. You can just say, grant, etc. to the Surface account name. Likewise, if you want to remove that access, it's the same script, but replace grant with revoke. To remove a login, again, sign in as your system admin account and making sure that nobody is signed in with that account currently. You can then go to the database it has access to and type out drop login. And once you do that step, you can go to the security folder for the SQL server, go to the login subfolder and confirm it is no longer there. After that is done, then go to the database security folder. You can go to users and then right click on that login and click delete to completely finish removing that login. As with other coding tutorials, I will be posting all code used in GitHub. You can go to GitHub, click on the magnifying glass at the top of the screen, search VB coding, select users to find my name. And all coding will be named after the named after the YouTube title. Not tutorial? Well, it is tutorial. And with that, we're going to hop over to Management Studio. So I am currently logged in as my VB account. I'm going to go to the security folder under the server, not the security folder of the database just yet. Right click, new login. I'm going to give it a name, SVC to stand for Surface Account, PBI, because I will use it for Power BI reporting. Select SQL Server Authentication Method, give it a password. And I'm just, for this example, not enforce password policy, not going to expire. I'm going to leave everything else blank. Server roles, again, I'm going to be granting access later on to specific objects, so I'm going to leave all this alone. User mapping, granted access to just one of our databases and leave everything else as is. Securables, clicking search and selecting our SQL Express, scrolling down to connect SQL, grant, status, it is already granted, login enabled. And now we hit OK. So going to the security folder for the SQL server, you can see SVC PBI has been created. So now what if we pause here to verify what can it see at this very moment? So I'm going to disconnect and now log in as that SVC PBI account. Authentication method should be SQL Server Authentication. Expand databases. And so we see it can view both. It can see both databases exist. So if I go to expand dev, we just got an error message. The database VB tutorials dev is not accessible. We can expand expand on production, go to tables. So right now, it cannot see any tables in production. So, actually, let's do a quick test. Select star from buckets. The select permission was denied on the object buckets. Going to go ahead and close that down. Log back in as our VB accounts. And now in our prod database, the database that the Surface account has access to, we are going to grant it access. So I'm going to say grant select on buckets to SVC PBI. So for Power BI reporting, well, again, this is a reporting tool. I don't want it to insert data, delete data, alter tables. It should only be able to query for information. So that is why I'm granting it only select. Highlight, execute. So now, let's go back in to SVC PBI. So now, in the production database, it can view buckets. Let's do a new query. From buckets. Try it again. You can view the information now. So now let's do a quick test with an update. Update buckets set comment equal to. This is a test. The update permission was denied on the object buckets. Likewise, we can do delete from buckets. Our category is equal to bills. The delete permission was denied on the object buckets. But this is good. This is good. So now this is a nice read-only Surface account that can be shared with, maybe other folks, maybe share with the reporting team, whoever shares or whoever creates Power BI reporting for your office. Now they can safely have that account. So not only do they have limited access to just select, they cannot insert data, they cannot update data, they cannot delete data. They also are limited to what tables they can view, what tables they can pull from. So going back to VB coding. So let's try revoking that access. So revoke, select on buckets to SVC PBI. Execute. And now let's log back in for the server's account to double check. Again, passwords are case sensitive. Okay. So let's do... Actually, can we even see the table? No, we can no longer view the table. So if we select, the permission was denied. And then one last thing. If we want to completely remove that login, not just revoking access, but completely removing it, let's go to actually the database that has access to. Let's do drop login SVC PBI. So before I execute, I'm viewing the security folder under the SQL Server. So we can see it's right there at the bottom. And also, before I do it, let me show you the security folder under the database. Go to users, and we currently see it there too. Okay? So right now, I'm in the prod database. Drop login SVC PBI. Oh, can I log in? One moment. Sometimes I need to completely close out of Management Studio. Okay, so I have completely closed Management Studio and reopened it. So let's try that again. Drop login SVC PBI. Commands completed successfully. So just for a quick refresh, let's go to our security folder for the SQL Server, go to logins, and SVC PBI is no longer here. But we're not done yet. So let's go to our prod database. Let's go to security, go to users, and we see it's still here. It still exists. I'm going to right click and delete. You get this pop-up message for delete object. Okay. And it never had access to the dev database, but you can double check. Yeah, it doesn't exist here. So now that login is completely gone, so what if we tried to sign in as that account again? SVC. Connect. Login failed for user SVC PBI. There you go. And since we created that account for Power BI, let's do a quick bonus and show you how to connect with it. So because I just deleted it, give me 2 moments to recreate it, and I will be right back. Welcome back. I currently have Power BI Desktop open on my computer. If you do not have Power BI, you can go to Google, search Power BI Desktop Download, follow the link from Microsoft, and from their download center, you can scroll down and select download to have your own copy. Without a license, you will be limited to what visuals you can use, but for just the basic free version, you can get a lot of experience. So the good things with Power BI are that you can connect to multiple data sources. You can connect to Excel, SQL Server, text files, the web, and have multiple sources all in one report that you can connect to one another and expand upon. To wrap up our tutorial for today, I'm going to show you how you can now use the Surface account that you just made. So let's go to Get Data and scroll down or go down to SQL Server. Let's enter the server name and database name. In my case, I'm going to enter coffee/SQL Express. Yours may look different up here, so enter whatever you see up here for your server name. We'll go back. SQL Express. And now for the database name, we gave our Surface account access to just one of the databases, and it was this prod 1. So I'm going to enter that, VB Tutorials prod. VB Tutorials prod. So I can either look up any table or view from the database that it has access to, or you can also write a query down here. So I can say select star from buckets, and that would be fine. This is great where if you have a select query with joins with other tables already, it's great if your query has where clauses. In my case, I just want to pull all the data from a table, so I'm going to simply import. So now this is where the credentials come in handy. So if you're just using Power BI Desktop with your own Windows credentials, you can stay here on Windows, use my current credentials, and click Connect, and you'll be fine. For our case, let's go to Database, and let's use the new credentials that we just made. And just hit Connect. Do I have a typo? Again, passwords are case sensitive. So now we can see all the tables and views that the Surface account has access to within that SQL database. So, and just to show again, here if I sign out of that and go back as my VB accounts, we have multiple tables in the prod database, but with the Surface account only having access to buckets, that's the only table it has access to. So this is great if you're going to provide these credentials to maybe another party in your company. Maybe another group creates reports while you are the database admin. So keep in mind having that ability to restrict data usage, restrict that availability. Very handy. So if there are multiple tables, I can check the box for just what I want. By selecting on the name, you get a quick preview of what is inside that table. If you wish to rename this, in your Power BI. So instead of calling it buckets, you can call it something else. Your budgets, etc. You can click on transform data. You can change data types, how data is displayed, especially handy for dates, date formatting. I'm just going to hit load. And there we go. So now you can see on the right hand side, if data is just a small bar, you can expand it to see all of the sources that your report has access to. You can expand it more. Here, I can get out of the way here. See all the columns that are available. And I'm going to make a quick table, or a table to display the data. In Power BI, let's add our ID. And for the ID, I do not want it to sum. I do not want it to count, min, max. It's an ID, so I want to just say, don't summarize. And I know these values are very small, so let's make that a little bigger. So you can left click, drag and drop, or you can simply check on the box. So I can say subcategory, let's say amounts, comment, etc. So likewise, how I increase the size on the values, I can go to column headers right below values. And I'm on the second tab here. Increase the value. And you can also change the text color, background color, the alignment. But this is just a very quick example of how to use your Surface account to start adding data to a Power BI report. So for future reference, the Power BI desktop will remember the credentials that you have entered. So if you go up to Transform Data, go to Data Source Settings, you'll see a list of all the sources that it has remembered. So if you wish to remove one, and I'm currently on data sources in this current file, I can hit on Clear Permissions, and it'll ask you again, are you sure? But because you have data in this report using these credentials, I can't remove it until I delete it from here. Now if I go back, now the credentials are no longer saved. Hi! Thank you so much for watching. If you found my videos to be helpful and wish to buy me a coffee as a thank you, consider stopping by Ko-fi to leave a tip. If you have a scenario in mind that you would like to suggest, you can share with me those ideas at askvbcoding@gmail.com, and I'll consider them for future videos. Thank you so much. Bye-bye!